that blames everything expected straight. It's like it seems wrong way.
My name is Paul James. I host English News every morning.
And the Golden Angel Award ceremony.
Hello, dear friends, lovely audiences, ladies and gentlemen, my dear brothers, sisters of Americans, welcome to the show. Jack Chow on the East-West Show with my dear friend, Mr. Chris Nebe, Hollywood producer, director, and most of the time, he is a political commentator, because as a film director who has a background with a monument line of credit behind him, as many as 25 films, he has to be kept close to what happened in history and what's happening now. That's why I have invited him here to join me in expressing or sharing his take, I mean vividly or in details about what's happening now.
谢谢你老朋友，
Thank you very
非常
much.
感谢。
And especially today's the early call. With the traffic, with the distance, between you and me, I would give you a special thanks for having that call answered.
Everything for my good friend Jack Chow.
Thank you very much.
Maya.
How nice to hear that kind of comment. Yes, welcome to the show, and I would like to start with your comment of altogether what's happening in the United States.
You see, I'm not American, and so therefore...
Yeah, that's why I ask you
Yes.
here to use a pair of eye
and so
that is not Americanized.
No, so it's very sad for me to see a country disintegrating. And as always, everything has two sides, but there's always a third side. And it's very sad for me to how this country is basically self-destructing.
Okay, it's hurting to see what's happening now, all right? However, the problem is that we are facing kind of a mixture of everything. On one hand, there is a brutal policing. They call it the police brutality. On the other, we have protests of all kinds. And on the third, we see lots of rioting, looting, burning, destructing the buildings to whatsoever. And on the fourth, we see lots of overboard activities, such as toppling down lots of monuments. In other words, to fight against history. And there's a word saying that they are gathered at Sacramento to topple the statue of Christopher Columbus. Right? With 1, 2, 3, 4, all the 4 blocks mixed together, I would like to discuss with you one by one what happened with 1, what happens with 2, what happened with 3, what happened with 4, and after all those 4 blocks are checked, we want to find out where are we heading. How about that?
Fine with me.
Okay, very good. So let's start with the death of Floyd. What's your take on that part?
On what? On the
death of George Floyd, the black guy.
You're talking about police brutality.
Yeah.
And
like I said, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
The 4 blocks.
I mean, it's not only George Floyd, but he was the breaking point of, and every day there is another killing of somebody. The last one, a man, a white officer in Alabama or in Atlanta shot a black guy in the back. I mean, this is outrageous, and there is no there is no explanation viable how this can happen, because why would you shoot somebody in the back, somebody who's running away, somebody who's not threatening you? Why would you kneel on somebody who is already handcuffed and helpless? And it goes on and on and on. And this is disgusting. And of course, and it shows you that deep divide in this country between people of color and the American, white Americans who have a supremacist attitude.
Okay, good point, good point, good point. We do understand that the death of George Floyd, at least the one case, was not justified, right? And it was a murder, was a killing on the street under broad daylight. But why people, I mean police officers in the uniform, would do that? Mr. Nebe seems to have answered my question that in the bottom, correct me if I'm wrong, right? In the bottom of their minds, of some of the guys, the discrimination, the hate, the hatred, I mean, are still there. Am I right?
Yeah, we have to, you see, we have to make, of course, a very we have a very strong point in favor of the police also. First of all, not all police are racist. Secondly, police are facing many times dangerous situations from criminals, where all of a sudden they are confronted out of nowhere with a gun. But these are all these cases which are known and which the people out there on the streets are demonstrating against it, are all cases which were unnecessary.
Okay, let's hold on to the second part a little bit. Let's focus on block number one, right? So the other day, when I was doing this show with my friend Ken Hemming, you know Mr. Ken Hemming, right? He's typical white guy. A
typical Republican.
Yeah, Republican. I love him a lot. I argue with him a lot, both. In explaining why the hatred and the discriminative factors are still there, I made a statement that this land, if we go from history, from here back to history though, the indigenes were the Indians, right? It was the white pioneers who came here, represented by Christopher Columbus, to claim the land, to claim whatsoever, and then they started driving the natives to the west by killing them, driving, killing, driving, killing, and of course, that's why they want to topple the statue of Christopher Columbus. That's another issue I'll come to later on. So from that time till now, it is deeply rooted in some of the people, deeply, that the land is ours. We claim the land. We claim that we are the owner of the land. Do you agree with me to the origin of such hate?
You see, the origin, yes, the origin was the authority. The origin was, number one, the people who came here and mass slaughtered the Native Americans. They were not Chinese. They were white Europeans who came here, and they had a moral authority from the Catholic Church, who reigned supreme in Europe in the Middle Ages. And I told you in the last show about the doctrine of discovery, which was issued by the Pope in 1493. 1493. In 1492, Columbus discovered America. And it was issued by the Pope, and the Pope basically said, white people are supreme, Caucasians are supreme. You can go into these other lands. The indigenous people have to become Christians. If not, you can kill them. That's basically what it says. And interesting enough, that doctrine is still on the books of the Vatican. It never has been rescinded. In the year 2000, activists were active trying to have the Vatican rescind this document, which is called Doctrine of Discovery, but it's still on the books. It was never rescinded. So the real responsible party for all the misery, which we also have experiencing today, is the Catholic Church, the Vatican, which authorized the white people and gave them the feeling of supremacy and exceptionalism. This is why they came. I mean, these people from Europe, you know, they were the third or the second or third or fourth son of farmers. They were not educated. They had no idea, but they knew the church told me I'm better than everybody else.
Good point. Very good point. My dear friend, with Chris Nebe, we want to go into history to find out the answers to today, which is quite a methodology that I always adopt, because if you need an answer, go to history. All right. So that's the solution. Let's take a moment. We'll come back to continue talking about it. So stay with us, please.
Everything is expected and straight. It's like seeing Broadway.
My name is Paul James. I host English News.
And the Golden Angel Award ceremony.
Hello, dear friends, lovely audiences. Welcome back to the show. Jack Shaw with my dear friend, Mr. Chris Nebe. We seem to have some good time because we seem to be walking on the right route in order to get the answers to the mystifying situation of today. He mentioned the bottom line is that in the bottom of their minds of some of the white supremacies, they still claim themselves the owner of the land, and that as a culture continues. Plus, he mentioned the Catholic Church. He mentioned the Pope back then in 1493, the second year after Christopher Columbus claimed the land. All right, there is a little change. Okay, the current Pope, Pope Francis, only 1 week ago had a prayer for BLM movement, and he calls on people to pray for the lives of the George Floyd whatsoever, and no longer giving instructions to Christopher Columbus to go ahead to drive the indigenous out of their own home. However, I mean, the trend is not there to some corners of the society. There are leftovers. There are bad guys. Do you agree with me?
Yeah, it's, you know, the lessons of history, unfortunately, are never really learned. Some people do, but you see, the lessons of history are also inconvenient, usually for the ones who rule and control. So when the Pope says that today, it doesn't mean anything to me. Nice, it's just talk. And it comes too late.
Good. Now we should recognize that the prevailing culture is not that way anymore. However, there are corners, there are leftovers of the society. Plus, there are bad people. You mentioned before the show to me that a street gang member could be one day a banger, and the other day could be a police officer.
Sure.
Because at hiring, they do not even require high school diplomacy. Is that right?
Right.
I'm a diplomat.
Yeah, they don't require, for example, 3 of the 4 police officers involved in the murder of George Floyd were previously employed as shelf stockers at Target and Home Depot. Shelf stocker, you know, putting the goods in the shelves. And 2 of them were flipping hamburgers at McDonald's. To be given a badge, a gun, and a license to kill, not even a high school diploma is needed. What does that tell you?
So without even a high school diploma, which is very basic of this society though, you will have a hard time educate them to further the stage, right? To be a conscientious police officer, and then that is time, the bottom of their mind, the hate, the hatred, the discriminations show up.
Right, because these people really don't have the qualities needed to become someone who is supposed to protect and serve the diverse communities of the United States of America. Because this is no longer the America where there was only white people. There are now people from everywhere in this country, and if you don't even have a perspective of who this person is, how can you understand, how can you protect and serve him? Because that's what the police is supposed to do. And in England, for example, police does not carry a gun. And we don't hear of any murders of police officers because you see, it's always like this. If you have a gun, the other one has a gun too and uses it. So violence breeds violence. It's very simple. Peace and harmony, win-win situations are only
In other words, are you
created.
talking about escalation or de-escalation?
But you see, de-escalation becomes with people who have empathy. If I look at you and I see you as bad, I shoot you.
Yeah, you're right,
If
you're right.
I look at you as a human being, I try to, like for example, this gentleman in Atlanta, he has the 8-year-old daughter had birthday. So he might have been drinking something, he might have been tired, but they told him go to Wendy's to get some hamburgers. So he fell asleep. So whatever, how sad. Can you imagine this 8-year-old girl was waiting for hamburgers and what she got was a dead father. And this is so sad. When I heard that, I cried.
Yeah.
It is heartbreaking. And it's a white police officer. Again, shooting this man in the back. Okay, he took the taser, but please, I can shoot only somebody who is having a gun at me and threatens me. Not in the back, not somebody who's running away. And he's not a high criminal. The man fell asleep. I mean, it's pathetic. But that shows you, you see, the moral fiber of some of these police officers. And the problem is, now, the society will say all the police is like this. And they are not. But there are enough of them who give them a bad name.
Obviously, we have recruited bad guys into police officers.
Yeah.
We give them a uniform, give them a gun, give them a badge, give them a license to kill. And then they started killing themselves,
The other day you mentioned Whitaker in Fullerton.
Yes.
Another typical example. This guy was on the streets for years. And all of a sudden he ran into
25 years.
Yeah, and only at some time somebody must have had a bad breakfast or something, and they shoot him. It's these are
No, they
heartbreaking-
beat him to death.
Oh, beat him to death.
They
yeah.
beat him to death.
That's even
6
worse.
officers.
That's even
6
worse.
officers
Yeah.
altogether, including kneeling, all right? And Kelly Thomas did scream, "I can't breathe, I can't breathe," right? And then Dad, Dad, help, like that kind.
Yeah.
George Floyd did the same thing.
yeah.
Mama, Mama, I can't breathe,
Yeah.
like that kind. So that indicates the officers in their bottom of the mind, the word killing prevails.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Of course. But you see, they just don't have the qualifications.
All right.
You need very high qualifications. You need to raise the level of hiring.
That's
them.
why President Donald Trump yesterday gave a speech on police reforming. So what's your comment on that?
It's all hypocritical, smooth talk in order to please the voters. That's all. I don't take that serious. I don't take nothing serious which I hear from the politicians in this country.
On the contrary, I see it differently. Excuse me, I'm not agreeing with you, because you have to have somebody who is high enough to make the call, and he's making the call. As to be effective or not, that's the second question we're asking. Number one, he talked about police education. Number two, he talked about only hire the best, right? Right. So those are the very important points.
He mentioned that in his speech?
Of course.
I didn't hear this
Of
speech.
course.
So.
Yeah, of course. He did it seriously and everything. And he says, do it on an incentive basis to put some funds to incentivize those departments who have better relations with the community. Right? And to put a salary basis and a bonus basis all on those kind of considerations. All right? And then at the same time, isolate the bad guys. So he made quite a few important points on policing.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, we really need those. We really need those. And also, instead of like what they say in Los Angeles PD, like Merrick Garcetti is cutting $150 million of LAPD budget to aid those whatsoever community. And Donald Trump says, no, I don't agree with that. And then he says he wants to incentivize the situation, that community with the wish to work together with the police department and the police department vice versa. Those are the ways to handle the situation.
Yeah.
Did you think so?
Yes, but you see, the system is broken, and it is such a humongous situation they are being faced that you cannot repair it. For example, if they would have taken the first homeless people, which we saw about 20 years ago, and would have created a program, then they would have been able to control this. Now, the homeless problem in this country is uncontrollable. There is no way you can change
agree.
that.
I totally
the
agree.
System, you see, the thing is, politicians let things go here in this country. Politicians let the things go, and they go, and then they get too big, and then you can't handle it anymore. Because one thing I find very interesting, number one, that the demonstrators are mostly white, a lot of white people also, all young, and it's going on. Because actually...
All right. Okay, my dear friends, let's take a moment out. We come back to continue with my friend Chris Nebe. Obviously, we're touching the next block, which is demonstration. Of course, demonstration is demonstration. It is the activities allowed, permitted, protected, given vesting us by Constitution. However, it has a limit. So stay with us, please.
Everything expected to be straight. It's like it seems wrong way.
My name is Paul James. I host English News.
And a Golden Angel Award ceremony.
Hello, dear friends, lovely audiences, my brothers, sisters. Welcome back to the show, Jack Chow, East West with my friend Chris Nebe, a Hollywood producer, a film director, and a man of wisdom. I often call him for answers for questions or situations mystifying enough. 2 days ago, I called him to schedule this show, and I caught him watching TV at that very moment about the black guy being killed, and I heard him cry. A man of well, you're 6'7" or 6'8"? Your height.
6'2". I'm shrinking now.
You're 6'2".
Yeah.
All right. For a man 6'2" to cry like a baby, I heard over the phone. He says, "Jack, they killed another one." It's very meaningful. Why would people think that way? Why would such a man, 6'2", cry like a baby, say, "Jack, they killed another one, you know? Just now," like that. So things need lots of consideration, lots of thinking together. We want to put together the block of demonstration, the block of rioting, and looting whatsoever, to versus the goal versus the police brutality, the bad police. So altogether, how do you define the three? It's all messed up, looks to me.
Right. That's the tragedy. You see, you have these thousands of well-meaning demonstrators who go out every day to demonstrate for a cause, and then you have a small amount of people who are not interested in the demonstrations for a cause. They're using this in order to loot or to break in or to create violent acts. It's the same as with the police. You have thousands of very respectable police officers, and you have a few bad acts who give the whole thing a bad name. The looters and the violent protesters give the whole demonstrations a bad name. This is unfortunately human nature.
And sometimes, you know, brother, you are mentioning a very good point. Sometimes the line between demonstrator and looters are very thin.
Sure.
Are very, very thin.
Yeah.
Just a minute away or a second away.
Right.
2 days ago, I was sorting AP News, because that's my early morning job on a day-to-day basis.
Yes.
Right. I'm always getting the first hand on the latest news each morning. I came to one piece talking about on Fifth Avenue and 57th Street. Mm-hmm. No, 56th, 57th Street on Fifth Avenue, where the Trump Tower is. The demonstrator, the word describing is quote unquote peacefully. However, you know what they did? They used mirrors, large mirrors with a handle that they unloaded from a pickup truck, and they face it to flip, right, to reflect to the police.
How interesting.
The police can't see because the sun.
Yeah.
The sun reflections right on their eye. You call that demonstration?
No, I call that very innovative.
Yeah,
clever.
innovative, of course.
Very innovative.
And that's very, very offensive.
Right.
Do you think so?
Yeah, but I mean, it's
so
still.
that's why I say there's the line between protesters, demonstrators, and the looters and the rioters are very, very thin.
But you see also, Jack, there is a helplessness about the people. Because remember, people have been demonstrating for a long time. as far as black people in America are concerned, remember that they were demonstrating back in the times of Dr. Martin Luther King. And yes, things have changed, but really the root cause has not changed, and it goes on and on and on. It's a
Never changed,
It's a
I should
very
say.
bad heritage of the country. It's not the fault of these demonstrators. It's not the fault of the people who have immigrated to America recently from other countries. It's rooted in the system, and there is a helplessness and you need a drastic change. You need a complete moral renaissance and a drastic change of the thought pattern. And it starts with education. You see, I don't want to promote the European concept, but in Europe we just have free education. It's excellent education. But here, you see, education is tied to the property tax. So, of course, in Beverly Hills, you have a very good education. But in Compton, which is a largely black area, where the houses are very cheap, the property tax is very low, so you have an education which leaves, as I have heard, people leaving high school and they cannot read or write.
Absolutely, you're right. You're hitting the nail on the head right there. Education, education, education. All the subjects we discussed are pointing fingers at one point that we failed with education.
Yes.
Right? Yes. Okay, to ask a simple question. This question was an old man that I came across at one of the to-go place when I was in line, waiting for food. And he asked me, learning that I'm a news reporter, saying that I have a simple question, right? Do the unjustified death deserve to go to loot my shop?
No.
So why are they together? Why they say, you do that, I do this? No. Totally wrong.
Yes. Unfortunately, this is because nothing is perfect and there's always the negative aspect. But the thing is education.
Education.
You have to, I mean, we have to try to lift people up to higher moral standards, not by some religious gibberish or something. No, simple moral standards.
Yes, you have the point. Yes, you have the talent, and you have the brain, you have the skills. On learning all these, pointing fingers at the failure of our education, right. Are you thinking, or could you be thinking of making another film on this issue?
Another film?
Yes, another film on this issue. As a part of education, man.
I mean,
I am talking about part of education.
Another show of you, or
no,
a film?
You're making another
yes,
film.
I could, but it's a very
with all the footage. You know what? With all the footage of the unjustified death, of the demonstration, of the looting, all together. With the narration, with a little narration, thoughtful analysis, you would probably compose a very good film as part of education.
Correct, but you have to also show the inner cities, because the inner cities are considered wasteland and worthless and inhabited by inferior people, for those people who control the country. Because the problem is, you see, it's all a matter of control. If the powers that be say we must have education, you will have education. But if the powers say we must put another $1 trillion in the Pentagon and we must militarize police, then this is not going to help the country.
That's totally wrong. That's totally wrong.
You see?
About 3 years ago, there was a talk about the militarization of police.
Yeah.
And they're talking about to equip the police department, local department, with the retired military devices.
Yeah.
Right? Which was so wrong, and it was pushed just down to the ground even before birth.
Yeah.
So never happened. My dear friend, with all discussed, we want to ask some questions. Why this happened? How come this happened in a year when there's an election, right? We want to go find out the political ghost behind it. I believe there's something behind, and I strongly believe there must be. And the evidences show they are not the self-motivated even demonstration. They are organized. For what? Who? So let's find out. Stay with us.
Everything expected, straight. It's like seeing John Wayne.
My name is Paul James. I host English news.
And a golden angel award ceremony.
Hello, dear friends, lovely audiences. Welcome back to the show. My dear brothers and sisters, it's really something important. It is really that we are at a critical moment. On one hand, we are hit most devastatingly by the pandemic, and on the other hand, we're facing our own problems. Our own people are on the street. Our black brothers and sisters are dying, and our police officers are thinking. Our presidents are making calls. Everything goes on and on. Shops are being looted, and buildings are being burned. Cars are being flipped over. So, all these, I've heard. I wonder if you have too. There's the term of paid demonstration or paid demonstrators. Have you heard that term?
No, but it may be possible that these demonstrations are being used for political reasons. It's always possible. There is so many things going on in a liberal society. Because, I mean, one thing is in the West, we have liberal societies. You can basically say what you want. That's not everywhere where you can do that. So this is all part of the big picture, and actually, for people, it's very difficult for the average people to understand all that. You see, because it is too complex. There's this, and they have the right wing armed, the militias. I mean, you see, for example, in Europe we don't have that, but we also have right-wing people. We have in Germany, with such a dark past of the Holocaust, there are neo-Nazis who deny that it happened, and it happened.
One thing for sure.
You see, it's
that I can share with you from a unconfirmed source of information. People are paying $15 or $20 to demonstrators and to looters whatsoever. Whatever you loot belong to you. So, if like I said, it's the unconfirmed source of information. I mean, if that came true, right? What would you say? What would be behind it? What would be the political motive?
for somebody gains from this. I mean, you see, there are two parties here, and so there are only two to blame. In other countries, you have 6, 7, 3, 4, 5. Here you have two. So there are interest groups, and of course, you see, every society is ruled by people. the people usually don't rule. They are being ruled. And those people who rule profit from ruling, and they want to keep the profits flowing. So they will see to it that whatever situation is good for their benefit will happen. And they are fear because, you see, for example, the economic inequality, which is now even exaggerated through the pandemic, is impossible to ignore. And the social services are unable to adequately address the mounting poverty problems. The immense proportions of the crisis are just overwhelming them.
All right, okay, good,
and I want to give you a very good example, which is a perfect example of the insanity of the system. A 70-year-old Michael Floor in Seattle received an 185-page bill of almost $1.3 million for his 62-day stay in a hospital fighting the coronavirus. I mean, $1.3 million for medical care.
To charge him?
Yes. Yes.
All right.
But, very interesting, he was insured. So the insurance has to pay this, and he only has to pay $6,000 because that was his, his self participation.
Sure.
But $1.3 million for a 62-day stay to fight coronavirus? I'm sorry, there's something really, really wrong here.
Yeah, all right, good point. Obviously, you're talking about two different kind of money, all right? The $1.3 million was the money the system get from the government.
No. It was the bill to him, but since he is insured, the insurer will pay. But the amount is insane.
I know.
I mean,
they make the amount.
$50,000.
They make the amount. They make the amount.
Yes.
As to the old man,
it's criminal.
Even the $6,000, he can put it in the 20-year or 30-year plan. I know that.
I see.
Right?
Whatever.
So no problem. However, who made the bill that high? Right?
The corrupt system.
The corrupt system.
Yeah.
Which allows the corrupt system, the politicians.
Right.
Right? Okay. The same kind of politician, by doing the same analysis though, even though we cannot be sure, we're not sure who is behind the movement. Who is behind the movement? Let's see. Donald Trump or Joe Biden, who benefits from the rioting situation?
I don't know, and I don't want to speculate on that because as far as I'm concerned, both are unelectable.
Both are?
Unelectable.
Unelectable.
Both are not right, no matter what they say. And you see, what I'm talking about is, this is like, $1.3 billion. It's insane, and it creates a festering psychic wound because people hear this. And for the public, the decline of the American way of life is a constant reminder and a silent witness to the crimes of a broken system, because to present this man with a bill of $1.3 million is a crime. It's unbelievable.
But the system
rightfully
yes, gets the money.
Right, but you see, if a system promotes this kind of situation,
my point is that
it's criminal.
Who created the system?
The powers that be.
All right, which is the power?
Yeah.
Whose power is that?
The powers who control this country, who control this system.
Right now, we're talking about Obamacare.
Yes, which was
that's the system. That's the symptom of Obamacare. All right. In other words, In other words, it's politics, isn't it?
Yes, of course.
It's a politics.
Of course.
Now, can we say everything is happening that is happening in the United States right now is politically motivated?
Corrupt political motivation.
Very good. Thank you very much for that. Corrupt political motivation.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes.
Okay, now, so who needs this corruption, this corrupted situation now? Looking at Trump, I'm only trying to make a point, all right? To find who are the hand behind it, right? Now you're talking about July, August, September, October, 4 months left for the election, right? Would Donald Trump want this mystifying situation?
I believe...
Or would he want rather some kind of order?
No, mystifying situation is in his favor.
Is it in his favor?
Yes.
How come?
Mystifying because then they will ask for a strong leadership.
No. You don't understand my question.
I think.
My question is that to himself. To himself, who would create the mess? Would he create the mess to benefit, quote unquote, benefit himself?
But you see, it's neither his creation nor anybody else. This is going back for a long time. This is not yesterday's news. That $1.3 million health care bill was not created yesterday. That is a part of a system which has been established long before him.
That's only one example
Right.
that happened to be picked up by you, all right? I am talking about, we already at the big picture,
Yes.
right? Forget the 1.3 million. We're talking about who is behind the situation. There must be some kind of political power behind the situation.
Who created the situation? No. The situation.
No. The situation was created by the wrongful death of somebody.
Right.
And it goes deteriorated on a day-to-day basis, being used by the bad guys as looters, and on the other hand, being used by politicians, on the other hand, to benefit from.
If what you tell me that they pay $15
Yes.
to go there, then that is obviously politicians.
Only I need to confirm the source of for that information. However, I know that I can trust the information.
I'm sure that is quite possible.
Yeah.
But I'm not surprised to hear that.
All right, my dear friends, my lovely audiences, I like today's discussion because it's not an argument, it's not only a doctrine we're talking about, nor are we teaching anybody, nor are we bringing the news to you, because nothing is new. We provided you an opportunity to flip off, or in other words, to peel the onions to see what's inside. And I say thank you for you watching the show. And to my friend, Chris Nebe, thank you very much for coming. And I believe my audience will love your analysis.
谢谢你老朋友，非常感谢，再见，祝你好运。
Oh, that's good Chinese, better Chinese than mine. All right, see you next time.